there, and welcome to World Breach number 36? 36. That's right. We're on number 36 this week. So welcome, one and all, to yet another update on to what exactly is going on in the world. So I've recently come to a conclusion about a few things, which I should probably touch base on at the beginning of this, which is everybody knows what a pain it is not to be believed. Like, say you go do something and people go, yeah, I don't believe that. I don't believe you. And you're like, no, I'm telling you this is true. Like, I know for a fact this is true. And they're like, nah, I don't believe that. That is pretty, well, it's pretty insulting. It kind of means that that person thinks you're an idiot. And they think you're wrong. And quite often when they're proven that they are, that you're right, they'll never say anything about it. Now, it's not that big of a deal, I suppose, but when you've been as right as I've been for such an extended period of time, and you've stood with a bullhorn trying to warn people for an extended period of time, and nobody listens to you, like you really don't have anything to go with at all. I mean, Josie listens. Don't you, Josie? Are you a good girl? Yes, you are. She's a good girl. But, well, and to be fair, she's part beagle, so listening is kind of one of those things that maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But it is an interesting phenomenon to have to go with, to realize that we don't, like if you discovered the truth, no one would believe you. And I think that that's what reality control is. Like Charles Fort said that science was imagination control. And really, what science and media is reality control. For example, when 9/11 happened, they had those planes that hit the buildings, right? A bunch of other stuff happened that day too, but let's just go with that. And when that happened, that shock knocked everyone out of this belief structure that they had. When COVID happened, everybody was like knocked off track. Within a matter of days, there was people with guns stopping you from going to the beach, and the whole world changed overnight. Now, what made it change, though? Because it didn't actually change overnight. Like, there were no actual flu deaths. So it was all this perceived reality. It's all reality control. And it seems to me that by design, the further you move away from the mainstream, from like everyday reality, that they believe, you know, they're worried about. Like back in the day, it was always about, oh, what's on television? And now they've expanded it so they have this complete net of multiple interests and controlling interests so that they can control the masses, which is what the desire is, obviously. So why? Why is this? Why do they want control? Money? Well, they have enough money. I think there's a lot of people with money. More people want money? Sure. But I definitely think that as we go forwards and as you learn more and more, you begin to come to the realization that, like, you know, again, best case scenario, we're pets. Worst case scenario, we're a resource. So I get a little bit worried about that. But I'll tell you, this whole, like, the way our reality is flowing right now and the way these stories are all engineering, now's a good time, you know, to start to take some accountability for your health, for your transportation. You know, make sure that you're not going to get blocked in behind everybody else when it's all bumper to bumper traffic. Make sure you know, own some kind of vehicle that can get around traffic. It escapes me right now, but definitely one that can get around traffic. And yeah, you might want to think about what the grim meat hook reality of the world we're living in is. Because, like, we lived in a world where, you know, James Caviezel made that movie, something Angels, Arms of the Angels, something like that. But anyways, it was about stopping child exploitation. And everybody crapped all over him for it. And then in the next breath, we had the Epstein files, which is essentially the same sort of thing as what was going on with James Caviezel. And there's just things we don't talk about. There's things that just don't enter the public consciousness. And is that because of the media, or is that because of us? Is it because there's some weird mind control that's being presented? I think that's probably it. I mean, all these people going to school for years and years and years to learn psychology for manipulation. It's got to be doing something. So that's something you might want to think about. What are you putting into your brain? you know, because I don't think it's helping you. But we do have some good stories this week that I can get into that will probably, well, I don't know if it'll help you, but should probably try to shake you out of, you know, the kind of reverie that you're in right now. But let's get into it. Let's see what's going on. First of all, be sure you go up and check out the Discord server. I had me a nice big long conversation with Wakula. She just told me this too, how it's pronounced. It's where the springs are. But anyway, I had a big long talk with her. She's like, what are you trying to do here, Sean? What's your plan? Which is so adorable that anyone thinks I have a plan. But yeah, they said, what are you trying to do with this? And I think that I'm trying to do the same thing I've always done, where I'm trying to get people to get together and to wake up. You know, that's sort of the big 50,000 foot idea. And then beyond that, I'm just sort of letting things evolve. But I do know that this is about the supernatural. And I do know that I want to hunt monsters, which means to go after things that are in the unknown. I don't know how the hell I'm going to do that. I'm working on it. But, you know, got the bike, got the gear, got the stuff. Now all I need is the last component. Time. You know, because you can either have time or money. You can't have time and money. It doesn't really work like that, which is super duper annoying. And it's always hard to be like a monster hunter for 2 weeks because, like, you know, that does leave 49 or 50 other weeks of the year that you could be monster hunting. Well, at least we know what I'm going to be doing once the channel gets sponsored. I'm making the good bucks. You know, we do know that. But let's go into something that is psycho. Microflora. Yeah, they got this news story here. Scientists claim they discovered a link between the specific balance of microflora in the gut biome and psychopathic behavior. This makes my spider sense tingle. As detailed in the yet-to-be peer-reviewed study, so it's nothing. A team of researchers led by the University of Porto biomedical scientist Carolina Costa, of Porto Biomedical, scientist Carolina Costa said they found the first ever evidence of a microbiota that could influence traits linked to psychopathy, a controversial personality construct characterized by lack of empathy, poor behavior control, as well as antisocial and extreme cases, criminal behavior. Let's just stop it right there. So they say here that could influence traits linked to psychopathy. A controversial personality construct. Being a psychopath is now a controversial personality construct. As Science Alerts points out, previous research has found that psychopaths can share similar brain structures, including pathways in the prefrontal cortex. The latest paper, however, suggests that those links could even extend into the microbiome. So, that's interesting. Now, none of this has been peer-reviewed, but what I do see here is they're saying, oh yeah, food you eat could make you crazy, makes you a psychopath. And that psychopath is a controversial personality construct. So there were no psychopaths before we gave them that name. You know, these people eating people, going crazy, cutting people up, yeah. So they're going to start talking about how the food you eat could influence psychopathic behavior. Now, I'm just going to throw this out there and say, what are the chances that the food you eat affects more than psychopathic behavior? Like, if it affects your emotional state, what do you suppose it does to everything else? I would say, just throwing it out there, the food you eat probably affects everything about you. Everything. How you sleep, how you move, how you breathe, how you go to the bathroom, everything. So that's a thing. Something to think about. And, of course, we have Necro-Traffic. This is it's just an excuse to use the term Necro-Traffic. A growing global trade in mummified human remains has been described by academics as a real mummy's curse that poses serious health risk to enthusiasts and postal services they use. What? Research into the secretive buying and selling of century-old human body parts includes hands, feet, heads, found alarming risks from dormant microorganisms and the toxic materials used to preserve the remains. Okay, I've been online a long time. And I've never, ever seen anyone socially selling mummies. Now, that's not true. I did see a Paracas skull that came up for sale in Canada. It was on sale for like $45,000 for like 20 minutes and it was gone. Now, the thing is, though, is that your standard dude working a job, going paycheck to paycheck, doesn't have $45,000 to spend on a Praka skull, right? Like, otherwise I would have a Praka skull. But, yeah, it's interesting that mummified remains are now suddenly becoming the thing that's traded. Like, that seems pretty twisted to me. You know, like, mummified remains? Now, I wonder why that is. And why are they on about this now, talking about this? You know, it's isolated body parts such as hands, feet, which were most frequently identified, followed by whole mummified heads, papers off the roll. Over half the sample, 51.6%, consisted of heads in various states of completeness and preservation, including whole or partial mummified heads, skulls or crania with soft tissue or hair, and santas, so-called shrunken heads, produced by the Shuar people in the northern Peru, eastern Ecuador. Okay, well, shrunken heads, I would totally rock the shrunken heads, I would. And I could see having a skull or whatever. But I don't think that would be quite big enough. But anyway, Necro-Traffic, it's a thing. And, you know, so I guess you can use Facebook Marketplace to sell dead things. Who knew? Who knew? So let's get into some recent encounters, which has gone on. Yes, a new heading. There's been a monster sighting on July 28th, less than 4 weeks ago. A woman and her husband came across a large, unexplained biped creature estimated to be around 9 feet tall. The incidents, which occurred on July 28th, began when she was passing through Hinsdale County with her husband in the car. She'd been looking out the window, hoping to spot wildlife. And she did. She looked out. A large creature stepped out of the woods to the side of the road. I watched as he turned and started to walk uphill along the edge of the woods, she recalled. It was a gait or a glide. The color was a dark blackish brown. The head was a kind of molded into the shoulders. The arms were long, very hairy. I would bet it stood 7 to 9 foot tall base on the small spruce trees. She was so surprised by what she'd seen, she could hardly get her words out. While her husband did not see the creature at the time, when they went back to the place where it had emerged from the trees, they discovered a strange footprint on the ground. We have never ever thought about Bigfoot-type creatures really existing. We were skeptical about sightings, but I have no doubt that Lori saw what she saw. Thanks, Lori. I have never seen her react like she did. To date, no definitive explanation for the encounter has been found. So what was that? What was that? What did she see? 9 foot tall, hairy, humanoid, hominid, biped. What is that? What the actual is that? Nobody knows. And yet somehow this mind veil gets pulled over our eyes and we're like, huh, that's weird. I guess we'll just carry on. Well, hang on. Was Lori lying? I don't think Lori was lying. So what is that? Other than, like, you know, this weird desensitization where we're beginning to slowly realize that, you know, it's almost as if we're, like, domesticated now. You know, you take a dog for a walk and there's all this crazy stuff going on. The dog doesn't seem to see it, or if it does, you're like, no, stay with me, whatever. And that's what seems to be happening in the world now, is that you've got all these things going on, and Facebook is like, no, stay with me, whatever. Mainstream media is like, oh, no, stay with me, whatever. And people are like, well, mainstream media is dead. Legacy media is gone. No, it's just evolved, dude. It's just evolved. That's all. You've just got more and more powerful ways to influence the masses. It's just the truth. Now, another sighting is a UFO off the coast of Norfolk, which is interesting. 2 RAF pilots, Royal Air Force pilots, claimed to have seen a UFO on the coast of Norfolk. The sighting, which was highlighted 2 weeks ago by the UK Airprox Board, is said to have occurred during air-to-air refueling mission in the North Sea on Cromer in February. The UK Airprox Board reports on incidents, improved air safety, cover near misses, and unidentified objects. One of the pilots in the tanker ducked as the object whizzed by. The other pilot in the fighter jet, which was being refueled, also claimed to have seen the unidentified object. It is reported that the object missed the 2 RAF planes by just 100 feet to 150 feet. That's really close. The refueling mission was taking part at 16,000 feet at the time. So what's that? Like, what is that? Oh, well, that was a unidentified aerial phenomenon, is what that is. Right. Yeah, it's definitely not a jet, though, is it? Wasn't a balloon. Wasn't a bird strike. But since we don't know, we're just going to lump that into the whatever category and just shuffle it off to the side so we don't have to think about it. But you should think about it, because we're in a world that is pretty freaking amazing. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you need to be aware that quite obviously there's more going on right here. Jerk the leash, man. Jerk against the leash. Begin to take a look at what's happening. Now, we got some weird pictures. Weird pictures are always a bonus. This one, which is pretty good, which was taken in 2022. Now, I did not know about this. This was some kind of wild stuff. This was a photograph taken on Sol 3474, May 17th, 2022. And it's on the surface of Mars, which I've linked to. The photo was first found by Joe White on a YouTube channel called Art Alien TV, something you might want to check out, on May 19, 2022. The official NASA source link is I've included, and it talks about what is in the photo. Now, what it looks to be is some kind of stick sticking out of the ground. It does not look like a rock. It looks like something that was organic. It looks like a photo of something, an old dead tree, plant of some kind. I don't know what the hell this is, but it's definitely worth a shot to take a look at this. Now, possible explanations. Beyond the hope of some depicts plant life of some kind, other explanations have circulated online. So this is what the guys are like, no, nothing to see here. That's what they're saying. It is a hard mineral vein. The theory is there's a mineral vein in the rock, and although the surrounding rock eroded over time, the mineral vein was harder and did not. So it produced a thing that looks like a growing stick out of the ground because all the ground eroded around this mineral, making a stick. Sure. The other explanation is a fulgurite. Fulgurite? Fulgurites are natural tubes or crusts of glass formed by the fusion of silica, quartz, and sand and rock from a lightning strike. Well, that is an interesting idea, except for there's two of them right beside each other. And from what I understand of electricity, it kind of grounds. It takes the shortest path to the ground. So unless it struck twice, which lightning generally doesn't strike twice, but yeah, that's a thing. And when you start looking at stuff that's in space, which we are now going to start looking at because there's quite a lot of it, and this notion of, as we go forward, you kind of come to the idea that this is like there's way more going on than we realize. And when I was checking this out, I came across a really interesting bit of information, and this was from a book called Meet the Neighbors, Stephen A. Benner and Alan Lane. So 50 years ago, last month, a life detection test developed by Gil Levin, a NASA investigator and engineer schooled in sensing dangerous microbial colonies in sewage, landed on Mars. It was on board Viking 1, the first of two life-seeking landers that landed on Mars. Okay, early on. Amazingly, both of the landers succeeded straight away. Levin's test, alongside two others, quickly gave what planetary scientists call strong life-affirmative results on Mars 50 years ago. Did you know about this? This should have been a triumph for Levin and NASA's Viking team. Unfortunately, a consensus developed within the Mars exploration community, making it fearful of anything so bold as to claim the discovery of alien life so soon. A negative interpretation of the results prevailed, which pulled the rug out from under the Vikings, finding that, on the balance of evidence and within the experiment's definition of life, there is life on Mars. But they don't want to tell you that. And the guys who ran the mission are saying, hey, I designed the tests. I was there. We ran the tests. I got the results from the test back. There's life on Mars. And they went, no, there's not. We're not telling them that. What? That's... At some point, so that's a thing. You can check that out. There's a link there. So I guess there's life on Mars that we've known about for 50 years. And that's arguably a bigger scandal than really just about anything if you discover life out there and you don't. But, they control all this, like I said, by media mind control, which leads us to our next heading. Media mind control. That's right. The Cornell University shut down claims of 60% Neanderthal New York Bigfoot, setting off fuming Sasquatch hunter. Now, this is one of these kind of stories that makes me crazy. Okay? We have so many sightings, so much work that's being done on hominid research. Seriously. It's the same as like the UFO thing. And now UFOs are getting play. And Sasquatch people are just insane. They're crazy. And the only people they feature are going to be people like Snake the Bigfoot Hunter. So that, he basically works to vilify the entire hominid research community because they all look like this. That's why if you find some dude with like no teeth who claims that he saw a UFO and he's high on meth at the time, oh yeah, he's going to make front page news because that's what they want everybody to think that Bigfoot hunters are like, or that UFO abduction people are like. But they forget, or we forget, did you remember like 2 seconds ago they were telling everybody that UFOs are fake and anybody who's seen them was lying? Do you remember that? And now they're saying they've been saying the same thing about Bigfoot. And I would put it to you, we have just as many, if not more sightings. Well, it can't be more because, you look up, there's the light, you can see it. But, so not more, but just a ton of sightings about Bigfoot. And who do they focus on? Yeah, Snake the Bigfoot Hunter. Very annoying. Check the story out. You'll see my point. Now, another thing they'll do is that some person somewhere, there'll be like some weird light, and then they come up with a description for how that works. They find out, oh yeah, we were mistaken about this one thing, and then they run that story as though that explains what UFOs are. And people gravitate to that. They're like, oh yeah, I heard about that. Those are just car headlights. I'm talking about the Marfa Lights. And the Marfa Lights are an atmospheric phenomenon located in the Chihuahuan Desert in West Texas outside the town of Marfa. The strange light display features orbs of varying colors that appear to dance along the horizon at dusk. Although 2 separate studies have analyzed the lights, concluding the most likely origins are automobile headlights traveling along Highway 67 2 miles away. The lights remain a quirky tourist attraction. So I guess we should put that on the list. We could go down the Marfa Lights, maybe get some guys with radios and start radioing back and forth. See what they have to say about that. Hey, I'm seeing lights. Are there any cars there? Nope, no cars there. Okay, well, I guess it's not car lights. But this is exactly the kind of thing that they run. Well, they'll have like one simple explanation about what is going on, and then they just they paint everything with that brush, with this like, oh yeah, see, it's all garbage. Nobody, you shouldn't believe any of this stuff. It's all just crap. Except, we were saying nobody has any kind of a memory. It's very frustrating to me. And it occurs to me that there must be some sort of organized mind control technique, some sort of a principle that's being applied. And largely it could be just because they want to keep people, starving. Because one of the things for sure is that if you can't feed yourself, you're not going to worry about Bigfoot or UFOs or whatever. Like if you're worried about making rent, you're not worried about Bigfoot or UFOs. That's not part of the plan for you. You're just trying to make fucking rent. So maybe that's why they're doing all this. Maybe that's why they're trying to control our culture and everything. Or maybe they're all just trying to kill us all. And then everyone will be like, oh, it's so sad. And they'll have a tragic. And they'll be like, we'll have a month of celebration for all the people we killed. And don't think they'll do that? Oh, yeah, they will. Yep. So that brings us to bad ideas. Another bad idea. Now, this is a bad idea that, as a heading, I like to find things that are bad ideas that they're doing. This one's a good one. Invisible drones. But, yeah, by exploiting a quirk of human vision, Northwestern University engineers have designed a drone that nearly disappears right in front of your eyes. Great. For years, researchers have tried to design invisible drones and robots using camouflage, transparent materials, or light-bending optical systems. But the Northwestern team instead used a concept called motion blur, the same effect that makes fast-spinning fans and propellers seem to disappear. Called the Phantom Twist, the drone spins about 25 times per second, which is too fast for the human eye to see clearly. While it isn't completely invisible, it morphs into a ghostly smudge that seamlessly blends into the background. The work eventually could lead to drones that monitor wildlife, survey the environment, and inspect infrastructure with less visual disruption. Let me just survey the environment and inspect infrastructure with less visual disruption. Like, do you actually believe that? Like, how high do you have to be to believe that's what they're going to use that for? The Northwestern team presented their work on the July 16th Robotics, Science and Systems 2026 in Sydney, Australia. The talk, Computational Design and Low Visibility UAV Using Human-Aligned Perceptual Metric, is part of the session Robot and Sensor Design. Most efforts to hide drones focus on making them look like their surroundings, said Northwestern's Michael Rubenstein, who led the work. Instead, we were asked whether we could design a drone itself in a way that perceives motion. This idea was low visibility through persistent motion, was something few people have explored. Of course, they've talked about this. They've talked about the idea that, like, you know, perhaps these things that are moving around, UFOs, they move at a higher frequency and then we're not able to see them, and so they phase out of our existence. It's an interesting idea. It's an interesting idea. But this is what we're doing. This is the plan. This is what we think is a good idea right now, and the rest of us are all just trying to, well, we don't think that. Our lords and masters are feeding us this, and we're trying to, like, parse all this information so we can get through our days. And that's a big part of why you need to stay focused. You need to, like, have a plan about self-improvement so that you can break free from the rest of the lemming herd. And so, when the terrifying vistas of reality make you want to go mad or flee into the safety of a new dark age, here on Sean Hunt's Monsters, hunting monsters is the third option.